Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise. We don't make money. So check it out and throw us some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Big Ballin Nile.
And that's what we've taken to calling him these days. We were hanging out, we were just kind of watching Jackass, and Nile turned to me and he said, "Call me Big Ballin Nile from now on." And I said, "Consider it done."
Yeah.
And now... Here we are.
That's what I am from here on out. That's the only way. If you ever try to refer to me in any other way, I won't respond. I will not even deem it as contact.
And here's the thing about it. This isn't like ballin' as in like how you might say like, oh, you're like successful or like you're making a lot of money. This is how Nile is known for rolling up in a ball like Samus Aran.
Yes.
And rolling around all over the place.
Yeah. But I am a little bigger than Samus in terms of like size and everything. And so that's why Big Ballin.
Yeah.
Instead of like Samus Aran is a pretty tight package, you know, when she's really like tightened up. I don't have the, what do they call it?
She has some sort of technology going on.
Yeah, she has some technology that kind of like takes some of that. It's like a vacuum seal pack. You know, where like the air gets sucked out and it gets kind of condensed. I don't have that, so I'm a little bit bigger of a ball.
Yeah, so Samus Aran is like morphing into a ball, and the whole time she is just suffocating.
Yeah.
Niall's not dealing with any of that stuff. I'll come over here, and he'll be like, "Oh, hey," and he'll roll over the fridge and be like, "You want a drink?" And I'll be like, "Sure." And he's like, he'll grab me like a seltzer, and then he'll roll over to me, and then I'll take the seltzer, and I'll open it, and the seltzer will go everywhere because Niall's rolling around with it.
Yeah, it does kind of shake drinks. It's not very good for drink delivery, but it does help when you're making cocktails.
Yes. Yeah.
I can make cocktails on the move.
Unless you want it stirred.
True. That is a downfall. Everything that I make is shaken.
So, Nile.
Yeah, what's up? Sorry, what'd you call me?
Big Ballin Nile. I'm so sorry. Big Ballin Nile. This week, I explored a topic that ever since I saw the phrase, I've been circling around it. We've covered many traditional UFO stories, quite a few particularly strange ones.
Yep.
I think that's fair to say.
So are you going to cover like a not very strange one, just like a really just kind of no frills, basic, boring ass UFO case?
This guy came down from the sky in a silver disc with a domed top. He was just a green man. He came up and he said,
"The most nondescript UFO case in history."
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm covering something weird.
Okay.
We even talked about like UFOs here on Earth and they're kind of like the different forms that takes. A lot of times you're getting this aerial phenomena. Sometimes it's underwater.
Yes, I am aware of the underwater unidentified object.
We've covered that a couple times. I think the most prominent one is Lake Baikal, and
way back like episode, I don't know, sub 10,
4 or 5. I don't remember, but that's a big one. However, we watched a documentary and not that long ago, and we found out that it is that by the same creator of that documentary. They had a documentary about a type of UFO that I hadn't really looked into before. And that is volcanic UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the other documentary, but there is a documentary out there about volcanic UFOs that if I remember correctly, the documentary series and the guy who makes them we find kind of meh. But this one got like reviews in 2021. They're like, yeah, this one's kind of meh. So I figured I'd
Is this the one that contacted us?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Let me make an edit mark there and see if I actually want to put that in the podcast.
Yeah, actually it is.
Okay.
So I kind of figured what I might do is look into the topic myself. I mean, that doesn't rule the documentary out as an episode for us, but I wanted to look into it to see if I can offer my perspective and some of the things that I found. And one of the things that I found that I feel like we've maybe mentioned in the show before, but never really got too much into, and I can't get too much into it here either for logistical reasons.
Okay.
But I found an alternate explanation for the UFO phenomenon.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I will be curious to hear what that is.
Yes.
If that's part of this.
So before we try to explain this stuff, let's talk about a few of the more notable volcanic UFO sightings. So I have like I got my sources from a couple different things, but there was one guy who stuck out because he gets referenced for so many volcanic UFO sightings. This is Scott C. Waring. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Waring. And Waring is a journalist of sorts. He's particularly focused on researching UFOs. He seems to be the guy, like basically he's referred to as a quote unquote UFO enthusiast on a lot of ufology sites. And then on basically every other site, he's referred to as a conspiracy theorist.
Smear campaign.
Yeah. And it's like, if you go to one of his websites, it's like, I've been on CNN, I've been on this news, I've been on all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but like you were referenced in a blurb where people called you like you're a conspiracy theorist. Like I get it. And he's given quotes to different
But is he lying? He has appeared on those platforms. His words have appeared on those platforms.
He's not lying. I appreciate you pointing that out, Big Ballin Nile. But
look, I got to look out for the other big ballers out there.
Well, this guy, you're gonna really love how big of a baller this guy is because his articles show up in places like exonews.org.
Oh, goddamn.
And a website that he seems to run called etdatabase.com. And I was delighted to find that he also has a side hustle selling NFT portraits of anime girls and Elon Musk composed of emojis.
What? Wait, sorry, start at the beginning of that. He made NFTs of what?
NFTs of the people's champion Elon Musk. That's literally what it says on his website.
Fucking Christ.
And it's like, it's Elon Musk, and it's like it's like he took like an Adobe, like a vector of Elon Musk, and then like filled it up with varied like emojis inside of it. And like, I don't know how else to explain it. It's like he took these images, put a bunch of emojis inside the figure of Elon Musk, and like labeled it the people's champion and sold it for like 1.2 Ethereum. It's the same thing. It's an anime girl who's looking stressed out.
Made up of emojis?
And she's got like emojis. I think the emojis are meant to be like on theme with the emotion, the character that they're portraying. I don't know. I saw it and I was immediately I immediately grabbed the waste bin and threw up.
Yeah, this sounds okay. The thing that he fucked up here,
which part,
is that NFTs are supposed to be the lowest effort art possible,
right?
And even just by having multiple emoji, but even by having multiple emoji, all you're supposed to do is just like change the color of a monkey's hat and sell it as a new NFT, right. Not like have to like copy and paste a bunch of emojis onto various portraits of Elon Musk. That feels like more work than needs to be done.
Big Ballin Nile.
Yeah.
Some people are in it for the art. Okay.
This guy's not. So that's first of all, fuck NFTs. Fuck all NFTs. All of that. Go to hell.
Horrendous. It sucks.
But that's not the part of this guy we're talking about this episode.
No,
we're just going to put...
I felt like I had to note this.
Thank you, because now I can officially say he is no longer a part of the Big Ballin lifestyle. This guy has lost his Big Ballin status because he's dealing with the sham bullshit. This guy
morphs into a cube and sits there. So
this guy can't shake a cocktail to save his goddamn life.
So this guy also, on top of being an NFT guy who makes weird NFTs, is like really into UFOs, but like also really into volcanic UFOs, I've found.
Okay.
Because like so many, you'll see. So, Waring has basically put articles together about, I say that term loosely, articles, about a bunch of volcanic UFO sightings.
Yeah.
He's like particularly interested in this type of UFO. Now, the unfortunate fact of the matter with volcanic UFOs that made this episode a little hard to research for sometimes is that the stories and sightings can get pretty samey, because it's not like somebody is like at the base of a volcano getting abducted, right?
Right.
It's people from a distance or on like webcams that like watch volcanoes. It's them finding that footage and like picking it apart.
Right. Okay.
But I figured it out. So I did notice that one particular location was a lot more popular for sightings than others, but we'll get to that in a bit. So first, we have Whaling like monitoring these volcano cams looking for evidence of UFO activity. And he watches these and then posts clips and images online when he thinks he's found something. He's also, what's amazing about this too is like, I'm honestly like giving you bad information claiming that he thinks he found something, because when he talks about this stuff, it is the most hyperbolic, like, this is proof. This is it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so...
It feels like... this has such energy of like flat earthers tracking flight patterns.
Yeah.
You know, where
Yeah.
just like they spend way too much time looking at NASA photographs and flight patterns to try to prove that like everyone's lying and the earth is flat and you don't actually pass over the South Pole because that's impossible because the earth is flat.
Yeah. This guy's got like these like volcano cams up on one monitor while he's like putting he's
photoshopping
emojis,
Elon Musk.
Yeah, or like Neil deGrasse Tyson or some other figure that nerds really like, but I'm not a nerd.
The two people's champions.
Yes.
Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson, followed by anime girls.
Yeah, I forget what the other one. There was one of like some other. I don't give a shit. Who cares?
I don't know. Jordan Peterson. Who knows?
So at some point, shitty online news sites like pick up these sightings as a story, and like I want to say like 3 or 4 of these came from something called the Express in the UK.
Yeah, I've come across them quite a bit.
Which it's like an online tabloid, right?
Yes.
Like that's kind of just what it appears to be.
It feels like I think it's in the same camp as The Sun. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
or the whatever website picked up our episode and put that into an article.
Citing me.
Very strange.
Yeah, that was weird.
Genuinely surreal. There is some like British online tabloid that talked about our Kenneth Arnold.
I think so.
Something like that.
It was weird because it was one of your episodes, but they started like citing things that I was saying.
You were saying,
and it so like I don't. It was very strange.
It's super weird because it's like they'll talk about something about the case, and then it'll be like said podcast host Nile of It Gets Weird, and I like it's very strange. And there's like multiple articles doing this to us where they just like are out of context, like, and we didn't get contacted.
No,
what the fuck? It's very weird. Just like let us know next time, okay? Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So like they're basically, despite these being tabloids, like they'll just like frame Whaling as a quack. Like they straight up in one part call his opinions bizarre. They use the word bizarre. And they're right, but this is also the same site with multiple front page articles about Nostradamus doomsday predictions. Yeah. So it's like the two Spider-Men pointing the finger at each other.
I believe this site, I forget if it was Express or maybe it was The Sun, but there was stuff about I in our like Hitler in Argentina episode, some of the like weird stuff. It was like Hitler in Argentina followed by like man that has to have penis reduction surgery or whatever.
I remember this because we got really fixated on that in that episode. Yeah, so it's a site like that. Now, in this video, you basically see what appears to be an object suddenly flying out of the mouth of an active volcano called Stromboli in Sicily, Italy.
Fantastic. Look, I back in college, there was a Sbarro on campus, and I would get the Stromboli pretty regularly. And
getting hungry.
That shit would sometimes molten stuff would fly out of those things.
That's true.
It's a real kind of a threat that you just accept when you're eating a Stromboli, that something hot from the center could just like squirt out of it.
Pop out, yeah.
Yeah, when you're trying to cut it.
This is an actual volcano that's shooting out.
Oh, it's not just a stuffed pastry?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, although that would be kind of fun if they had like a giant stuffed pastry that they were like, yeah, we got this enormous stuffed pastry known for its UFO sightings that surround it.
Are there croissant UFOs along with volcanic UFOs, you know?
I would love that if that I hope the listeners can't hear me salivating. I'm very hungry right now. So I could go for a Stromboli and croissant dinner. So
we call that the tour of Europe. A little bit of Italy, a little bit of France.
Yeah. And that's all you really got to see.
They're going to put some fondue on it and get in.
So this footage was originally recorded in 2018, but it was quote unquote uncovered by Waring in 2020. This sighting...
I wonder why you had so much free time in 2020.
I don't know. Yeah, hey, here's the other fun fact about all these like uncoverings of these sightings is it's 2020 and 2021 almost exclusively.
Hey, I watched a lot of TV those years too.
Yeah.
Still am.
Yeah. So this sighting was explained away as a bird by doubters, but Waring claims otherwise. So he says, quote, "The UFO is slightly blurry, as is the mountain surface itself. The UFO is not a bird because a bird would be much closer and much more focused. This is far back." So
what?
He's like basically trying to say that in the video, the UFO object is like, sorry, I realized I just said unidentified flying object. The UFO is like blurry and therefore like further back in perspective than a bird would be, because if the bird was further back in perspective, it would be getting burnt to a crisp hilariously. That one's for Garrett.
Yeah, that's a real what Olympics was that?
I don't know. I don't know. Garrett has this sick thing where he finds it really funny when birds like explode. If you've ever seen the video of the pitcher in baseball, like hitting the bird and the bird exploding.
Randy Jackson, I think.
Guaranteed to make Garrett laugh. Yeah. Okay, I'll admit it. It kind of makes me laugh too. Although I don't revel necessarily in bird death quite like Garrett. Garrett could start a cult.
Garrett can 100% replicate the sound of bird death with a receipt from Five Guys.
That is so, oh my God. I don't even want to explain that on the podcast. That is impossible to explain.
Yeah.
That's just a little in-joke for us. Hopefully Garrett listens to this episode. So Jesus Christ. So you're poking parts of my brain that I forgot existed. God, what is he saying? Because a bird would be much closer and much more focused.
Yeah.
This is far back. It's not a plane or helicopter because its size and location would put it in danger from the live volcano. This is the perfect location for an entrance to an underground base far below the ocean floor. The UFO itself is about 30 to 40 meters across. That's huge. This may be the same underground base linked to the historical 3-decade alien contact case in Rocca Pia, Italy, where locals and aliens came up from a city below the castle and chatted with them occasionally. They also said the alien base underground extended far out into the ocean floor.
I think I've seen a bit of that case where there's like a castle. Yeah.
You want to know why you know this case?
Why?
This was supposedly one of the locations the tall humanoid aliens called the W-56 operated out of in the Italian friendship case, which we covered a few months back.
Okay.
That's why what that was from. And he like specifically like name drops the W-56 and says, oh, supposedly this is an area where these aliens reside. So Waring is like suggesting that the UFO flying out of this volcano could be connected to those aliens, possibly even another entrance or exit to the sprawling underground base that sits off the coast of Italy. So,
oh yeah, wasn't there something about like UFOs like going down underneath the crust and like changing shape or some shit.
They could basically like instantly magically terraform parts of the Earth and turn the Earth into an elevator and like pull them down into their base, which is like underwater.
Yeah, that one took a second for me. Like that one I had to process for a minute.
Yes.
It was
weird.
It's one of those sci-fi concepts that like in a book you just have to, or like a movie you just have to like accept. But when you're talking about a UFO case, I'm just like, what the fuck are you saying?
Well, yeah.
But I figured it out. It just took me a second.
The other thing of that case that I constantly think about too is how they would like lure truck drivers with like various like materials that they needed, which sometimes included fruit.
Yep.
And they would just like one of the humans who worked with the aliens would like take the truck driver who delivered the goods and like wine and dine them while the aliens would come up and dematerialize the materials into their base. And then they would be like, they'd come back and they'd be like, oh, looks like they unloaded everything. Wow, they're really good at this. And then the driver would be like, oh, thank you for the wine and the chicken parmesan. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So
that was the other part of that episode that I just couldn't.
It's very strange.
It's really hard to grapple with because it feels so hijinksy from like an 80s Bill Murray movie.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't make sense, is I think what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So another volcano UFO sighting Waring was quoted on involved an Indonesian photographer, Gunardo Song, snapping a photo of the active volcano Gunung Merapi right as a green beam of light appeared to shoot out of its mouth. So the photo was shared on May 26, 2021, and the explanation given to the curious photographer who was like asking what he had captured a photo of was that a stray meteor from a shower that would peak only 2 days after the photo was taken had fallen in just the right sort of trajectory to make it look like it was like going into the volcano.
Okay.
It's likely that the mineral makeup of the meteor caused the green color as it burned in the Earth's atmosphere, and this was likely magnesium, which I have seen one of these.
Yeah, you saw a green fireball.
I saw so he saw like a shooting star off in the distance. I saw a green fucking fireball, which not an alien, but pretty crazy nonetheless. Because I mean, it was just like you could tell it was green fire. It was a crazy experience. Seeing that shit.
So far, everything that you've talked about has been in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Are volcanic UFOs a thing that predates that at all?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll get to that. And I have a little. We'll get to that. I'll talk about it.
Okay, just checking.
So this is Waring's alternate theory for the green streak in the sky. He says, quote, volcanoes worldwide have been linked to UFO sightings, and more photos and video are recording such events every day. For UFOs to enter and exit a mouth of a volcano, it must be leading them to and from somewhere significant. This is why I believe that aliens use the mouth of volcanoes, because few humans ever go there and there is less chance of being seen. An alien base 5 to 6 kilometers below the surface of the mountain makes a lot of sense. This is 100% proof of that fact.
It does make a lot of sense. He's onto something here.
You know what, Waring? I'm going to buy an NFT. It makes so much sense.
Don't even joke. I will not accept that shit on this podcast.
I hope everybody's excited for the It Gets Weird NFT drop. We just took our, you can get our, what are we going to do? You can get our podcast icon in multiple different fun colors.
No.
1.5 Ethereum.
I'm not even fucking joking. Fuck NFTs.
We will never do that. That's a joke. Now, there are volcanic UFO sightings sprinkled around the world. I found little stories and like videos from Japan, Lebanon, and another one or two from Italy, but those were not substantial.
Yeah. Okay.
Not substantial.
But there's no like ancient lore on volcanic UFOs like dating back.
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay. And I just need to wait. I need to put. Let me just chill for a minute, and I'll let you tell the story. Weave your tale.
Thank you. I found Big Ballin Nile. I found a pattern. Sorry. That sounds like I discovered it. This is a pattern about volcanic UFOs that is very much known to the relatively niche ufology community who is into this. So for some more substantial stuff, for more notable cases, you got to go to Mexico.
Okay.
So Waring covers a lot of volcanic UFOs in Mexico, and multiple sightings occurred throughout 2020 and 2021 around the volcano Popocatépetl. I'm so sorry. Popocatépetl, just southeast of Mexico City. One of these was uncovered by Waring in 2021, and it's from this footage that he has like extracted basically sightings of orbs of light and cigar-shaped craft. Those are like the two. I think there's one of like a metallic orb or that he also talks about. But the cigar-shaped craft and the like orbs of light are two of the more important ones.
Okay.
So he even claims that you can see one of the cigar-shaped UFOs activate its shield before entering the volcano. I watched the video. I don't know what he's talking about, but that's supposedly what's going on. There's like a part where you see some sort of object like enter the clouds, and you see the kind of like the clouds like plume up around it.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if that's what they're talking about, but I didn't see its shields active.
That sounds like shields activation.
Yeah.
Now, do you turn the audio up so you could hear the word shields activate happening in it?
I did turn. Now that is the weird part of it, is you can hear the garbled voice of an alien saying shields online.
There you go. Okay.
But yeah, here's what he says. This is a great discovery of several UFOs around the famous Mexican volcano Popocatépetl. I believe that they call it El Popo for short, so I'm going to call it that.
Okay.
One of the UFOs is seen leaving the mouth of the volcano and shooting straight up into space.
The problem is, both times you said that, I've wanted to make a reference that you would not.
Oh, nice.
That would go nowhere for you. Every time you tried to say that volcano name, I've just thought of the fucking Santa Claus. Because there's a point where they're asking him what his name is, and he's giving Santa Claus, and he's giving like other names like around the world for Santa Claus, and he's like, one of them is Popo Gijo.
Oh, okay.
And he goes Popo Gijo to some cops, and it's that
sounds amazing.
It's an interesting moment from my childhood.
Rich tapestry of Christmas time entertainment. So one of the UFOs is seen leaving the mouth of the volcano and shooting straight up into space. Another comes down and enters the mouth of the volcano. The close-up of the video clearly shows the brightly glowing UFOs exiting the mouth and wavering back and forth and then shooting straight up. Absolutely mind-blowing. This should be impossible, but I do know that UFOs have been seen entering and exiting this volcano for almost a decade. I also know there is I don't know how he knows this. I also know that there's an alien base 5 to 6 kilometers below the ground level that contains the alien base itself. 100% proof that aliens live on Earth, and they come and go anytime they want.
Okay, Kyle, I need to do a status check with you. How's your brain doing?
How's my brain?
How's your mind?
I was just about to ask, where is my mind?
Yeah. Okay. So it did get blown.
Yeah, my mind is fucking blown. I watched the footage. My brain shot out of my ear. It was fucking exploding and melting so hard. It just fucking, it became a UFO.
Okay.
Because it went in, I identified flying object. I knew that was my brain flying around out there.
Yeah, it was not unidentified.
Well, for a while I did, and then it hit the part of my brain that recognizes objects.
Okay. There you go.
So, yeah, I no longer have object permanence because of watching this video. Now, that's kind of where Waring's accounts ended because, or at least I chose to end them because they really do get really samey.
Yeah, it's just him watching more videos of like volcanoes and like
pointing at stuff.
Things, and like, oh, that's a UFO getting out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, all right, I'm done with this guy. He's not a great wealth of information. But I did find a good compilation of Mexican volcanic UFOs that were unrelated to Waring's particular journal, and all of them are like short and sweet.
Okay.
So I got a lot of information too from Unexplained Mexico, I believe it's called. So that's where a source of a lot of these stories came from. On January 4th, 2014, inside the caldera of Nevado de Toluca, a hiker recorded a greenish-yellow orb emerging out of one of the small lakes inside the volcano. At first, the hiker thought it was a duck or a goose, but the object assumed a spherical form and seemed to float along the surface of the lake and then among the boulders and rocks of the inside of the volcano. The object never left the caldera and went back into the lake. And it notes here that the lakes inside Nevado de Toluca are said to be the home of the Tulanchana, a freshwater mermaid-type creature that predates the Aztecs.
Oh, okay. Cool.
The orbs, either metallic or made of a bright glowing light, are actually the most common UFOs sighted over all of the volcanoes in central Mexico. Now, I want you to remember that the orbs, especially orbs, metallic or made of light,
okay,
that is a thing. That is the most common sighting that you can get.
Okay, so that would be like your basic commons in your packs.
Yes.
And like your cigar shape and stuff would be like your
uncommon.
Yeah, like uncommon kind
Silver
of things. Okay.
Slot. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, next we have the metallic.
Kyle and I have been talking cards a lot lately because the AEW cards dropped, and I've been playing a Marvel card game app thing.
Yeah, and
so it's on the brain. We could say
I'm a card gamer. Everybody knows this. So don't even get me started on Magic the Gathering. Like between Magic and AEW cards, I am just chock full of cardboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, next we've got the metallic saucer UFOs. On February 6, 2016, a driver on a main highway passing by Pico de Orizaba took a picture of a disc-shaped object that made national television. When the photo was analyzed, it was judged not to be an enhancement or fake, and the object appeared to be as large as a commercial airliner. Then a glowing cylindrical object was filmed on December 2nd, 2012, in the skies above the snowy white, oh god, they put it in the Iztaccíhuatl, which was also witnessed by hundreds of people in the area. So I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, you had to read a foreign name, and your brain just like farted for a second.
It really did. Sorry. Okay,
I know you're operating at like a deficiency after working through getting your brain blasted by all the whaling information. So.
Yeah, it really is a lot. But there is also a volcano Colima, whose 2015 eruption was captured by a woman named Loyola Quinanilla Rosa. Upon examination of the footage, she unveiled my favorite volcanic UFO sighting and the entire reason I ended up doing this episode.
Oh, fantastic.
This is a UFO of some sort that many, including the original photographer, claim looks like a horse.
What? I've never heard of a horse-shaped UFO before.
Is it a UFO if you're looking at it, it's like, well, there's an object in the sky. It certainly looks like a horse. Like, is that still a UFO? Is there maybe an ancient civilization who had a horse die and then somehow it was like subsumed into the volcano and preserved, and then when this shit erupted, it shot the horse out?
So you're thinking of like a fossilized horse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that something that can happen? I have no idea.
I'm not a scientist, but I don't know why it couldn't happen.
By the end of this episode, we're gonna have to get my dad on the show to like help me reassess the geological My dad went to school for geology. Like he's a geologist. And I don't know, maybe I'll have to ask him about some of the stuff. So
ask him about fossilized horses.
And there's some more stuff coming up that I'm like, I need to ask. I actually straight up want to ask my dad about this. So here's what Loyola says. Quote, when I first saw it, I thought it looked like a horse. It had a very large body and seemed to be an animal. It had a thin top, a bulging middle, and two extremities at the bottom. But the legs weren't moving, so it clearly wasn't a modern-day Pegasus, and it sure as hell wasn't a bird. So you can find this picture. If you look up UFO volcano horse, you'll find this photo.
Okay.
You can kind of look at it and maybe say, okay, that kind of looks like a front-facing silhouette of a horse. Okay, fine. But it's like, it went like, I guess, semi-viral that there was a horse that was flying around a volcano. But that's all there is on that. Are you looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay, you see it. Cool. Yeah, isn't that that's
really
a horse?
It does look like a horse galloping
like a horse.
at you. In the like, now these are they've like done the zoom in on it and stuff. So this may not be like entirely unedited, but it does looks a bit like a horse.
Yeah, that's a horse. The Volcano UFO horse in Mexico.
I looked up UFO volcano horse and image search, and it was
found
right
that
there.
Shit. Yeah, go check it out. Probably going to be the thumbnail for this, honestly. But so while a horse UFO flying out of a volcano is obviously the greatest.
Yeah, it kind of rules. I'm into it.
It is ultimately El Popo that turns out to be the most infamous harborer of UFOs and aliens, because this is where I found some more stories beyond what Waring compiled that are far more interesting.
It's not just like a whole mess of orbs.
No.
Okay.
A little more wild. You'll see.
I'm into it.
The active volcano El Popo deserves special examination, not only because there seems to be more activity around it, but because it also is the only peak on which strange humanoids have been observed both on the ground and flying in the air. Which that is another thing that I've almost done an episode on, of flying humanoids. Okay. Which, like, we've talked about somewhat, because like they I think made their appearance in my Atmospheric Beasts episode.
Yeah. Now, is there something more specific than just like, or is it just basically any and all flying humanoids? Because I feel like there's some aliens that kind of hover and fly and stuff.
There are. It's kind of weird because like the flying humanoid stuff can kind of straddle multiple things. It can straddle UFOs and aliens. It can straddle cryptids, and it can also straddle the paranormal. It can be any one of these things. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's almost like depending on the perspective of the person writing about it or talking about it.
I feel like there's a lot of types of things that become World of Weird Rorschach tests.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, so you see this thing that you can't explain. What do you try to link it to? And I feel like that says a lot about you as a person.
Yeah. It's like you show it to like a Bigfoot enthusiast and they'll be like, oh, well, that's clearly the Jersey Devil. You show it to an alien enthusiast and they're like, oh, well, those are like tall humanoids from Neptune. Mm-hmm. You show it to a paranormal researcher and they'll be like, well, clearly that's a spirit.
And you show it to someone who's only seen one movie and you say, this is giving me real big boss baby
serious
vibes.
Boss baby vibes.
Yeah.
That humanoid, is that a humanoid boss baby is that a tall boss baby?
Is a humanoid.
Is that a flying tall boss baby?
Yeah.
I've even seen the flying humanoids as like just being lumped in as Mothman sightings.
Yeah, so. I think that might be where I've come across it because like I don't want to do like we could probably do more Mothman episodes, but I always like try to find other things because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that are other types of cryptids, other places that you can do episodes on.
Yeah,
and I think that's where I've come across the like just the idea of like flying humanoids.
Yeah. So the paranormal Mexican television show Tercer Milenio, hosted by investigative journalist Jamie Maussan, remember that name, boasts that it has been reporting on flying humanoids spotted near the slopes of El Popo since 1999. There are many video clips of strange, dark, human-like figures floating around in the air in a seated or standing position. Some even look like they are wearing jetpacks.
The idea of just like humanoids like just sit in a sitting position, just like flying around is actually really funny to me.
I've seen that stuff plenty of times too. Yeah. Like that's a thing that crops up is like for some reason humanoids can just fly around. It makes me, it randomly makes me think of the enemies in Control. There's an enemy in the video game Control where they are just like seated dudes and they fly around in the air and like summon projectiles to fire at you and stuff. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is if you encounter one of these in real life, you better be dodge rolling and stuff.
Is Control a big dodge roll game?
No, they don't dodge roll. She has like a dash with her like psychic abilities. And anyways,
you've been playing too much Elden Ring.
I have. I'll admit it. So in Tepoztlan, in the Mexican state of Morelos, located between Nevado de Toluca and El Popo volcanoes, Gerardo Valenzuela recorded what looked like a standing man in black hovering over his town. This was on July 8th, 2000, and then 5 years later, June 17th, 2005, Horacio Roquette filmed a flying humanoid in a seated position over southeastern Mexico City. The most famous flying humanoid footage was taken by amateur skywatcher Salvador Ramirez in the neighborhood called Tablas del Pozo in the town of Ecatepec on December 17th, 2014, in the middle of the afternoon.
Okay.
Ramirez stated that the object had quote-unquote intelligent movements, and in his footage, it is clear that the figure has a pair of dangling legs. So it's like it looks kind of like a guy flying around, but his legs are out and like normally when you see these things, it is just like a stiff, upright human floating around.
It's like almost like a default state, like video game thing.
Yeah, it's like a
not quite T-pose, but
right. It's a glitch in the Matrix type thing. This guy's legs are like moving like he's dangling in the air.
Okay, little ragdoll legs kind of situation.
Yes.
Okay.
The humanoid seen on the ground on the slopes of the volcano El Popo may or may not be related to the unidentified objects or human figures in the air, but many researchers believe they are. According to Augustine Tagle, I do not know how to pronounce that name, Tagle, Tagle, the director of the national park that encompasses both El Popo and Iztaccíhuatl, many hikers have seen human-like creatures on the slopes of the volcanoes for years.
Okay. I feel like there's an argument to be made that these people have just figured out how to activate no clip.
This is our simulation is just one absurd giant scale TFT game.
Mm-hmm.
It's why people wear hats. Stupid.
The way that you almost gave up on the joke on the last word was honestly what sold it to me. You got confused by your own bit at the very end.
I was not so much confused by my own bit as I was annoyed with myself for doing it. These humanoids, the creatures, they are described as thin and very tall, ranging from 7 to 8 feet in height. They're the color of the volcanic soil, and they can move rapidly around the landscape. Some researchers claim, quote-unquote researchers, claim that these beings are the same as those reported in Chile on the slopes of a volcano called Misty, a sort of Bigfoot-like creature covered in hair called El Macon by the locals in Chile. And it turns out Mexico has its own version of Bigfoot called Sisimite, which supposedly lives in the jungles in the southern part of the country and has been described by the indigenous people there for thousands of years.
Cool.
Supposedly. The tall, hairy beings spotted on the slopes of El Popo are said to be a recent phenomenon with no mentioning in the indigenous lore and only date back a few decades, which have led some to believe that the creatures are not native to the area and are more recent arrivals. Famous Mexican mountaineer Guillermo Vidales described on camera his encounters with the creatures on the icy slopes of the volcano. He said he was in Las Grietas area of the mountain on the route to the top of the crater when he saw a tall, thin, brown, human-looking being scale the side of the volcano at a very rapid pace. The creature did not wear any equipment, which was strange in such extreme weather. The next day, Vidales and the members of his hiking team found tracks in the snow. The footprints had what appeared to be indentations of a claw coming from the back of the leg, which probably assisted the being in climbing, much like a hiker's crampon. On September 15th, 2014, acclaimed Mexican UFO researcher Ana Luisa Cid interviewed a man named Jose Antonio Cisneros about his recent experiences on the slopes of El Popo. Cisneros claimed that there are two types of unknown beings that live on the volcano. A smaller being that is mostly white with large black eyes, which serves as a sort of custodian to the forest. an elemental being much like the Chinek of Aztec myths and legends, which probably its own episode.
Yeah.
Cisneros also claimed to have contact with the taller, thin beings reported by many other hikers in the past 20 years. Cisneros told Ana Luisa Cid that he believed that the taller, thinner humanoid creatures are part of the UFO phenomenon, and they come directly from extraterrestrial craft.
So you said he had contact with. Does that mean he actually like communicated with them, or just like ran into them and saw them?
I think it's ran into and saw, and not so much directly communicated with. I don't know for sure because I didn't get a lot more information than what I just told you.
Okay.
But it does seem that El Popo in particular has the wildest sightings. People see UFOs there, but people also claim that there are like humanoid creatures living there, whatever they are. And some people believe in the Bigfoot theory. Others are like, not, there's aliens here.
Yet again, Rorschach blot test.
Yeah. Now, here I want to bring back Jamie Moussan. So this guy is an episode.
Okay.
He is a notable Mexican ufologist. He was also, I think, the host of 60 Minutos, which I'll give you one guess what that is.
It's Sports Center.
Yeah. He was the host of Sports Center, and he got fired for bringing up UFOs too often.
Yeah.
He had like, he's a notable TV personality, but he also would like speak at like a lot of UFO conferences. He's like been working in media since the 70s. But most notably, I found he is in the 90s again. And this is another episode. Maybe we can tie him into this episode. But what I found was that there was a mid-90s eclipse. And during this eclipse, Mexican like UFO enthusiasts claimed that there were like UFOs sighted during this eclipse.
Okay.
So this Moussan guy in particular was like, I guess got really into UFOs after this event. I think he himself saw or claims to have seen the UFO that happened, that appeared during the eclipse in the mid-90s.
That's a side of like UFO culture that I hadn't really thought about, like based around celestial events like an eclipse. Because like I've seen stuff relating to like UFO cults that deal with stuff like that, I think, but I haven't really thought of just like UFO sightings.
Yeah, well, this is very interesting. And like I said, I would love to cover this sometime. But basically, the short and skinny of it is the 90s would then kick off a Mexican UFO flap.
Fantastic.
And this seemed to be one of the major events that kind of like triggered that set things in motion. I did also read that a lot of people said that this was just because of the eclipse, it gave them an extremely good look at Saturn, and that's what they were seeing. So it's a very interesting story that gets way more in depth. I ended up I think though that the popularity of the like Volcano UFO Association in Mexico is partially due in part to this guy, because he would go and speak at like, there's so many times where he would go and speak at a conference. He sells, like they sell DVDs of these conferences where you can hear him talk about this stuff. And he has multiple times brought up like UFOs surrounding these volcanoes.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it comes from him. I didn't research him too much, but he was a name that popped up a lot. And I figured I might as well mention it because I think he is a catalyst for the Mexican volcano UFO connection.
Interesting. Okay.
So those are some of the best stories and sightings I could find about volcanic UFOs. And we're, of course, left with the question, why volcanoes?
It is interesting how seemingly recent of a phenomenon this is, you know?
Yes. Well, and the thing is, and I wish there was more to go on this. I found an article that was like, basically, okay, so we've covered one theory already, put forward by the likes of Waring, which is that volcanoes act as secret bases for the aliens, and it like naturally doubles as an effective shield from the prying eyes of humans, which is odd considering how much footage Waring can get of these UFOs. So I guess their plan to hide in volcanoes sucks.
Yeah, considering how much we study UFOs, or not UFOs, but volcanoes on like a constant basis. But like, I guess I do understand, like, it's adverse human conditions. Humans cannot survive inside an active volcano, so drilling way down underneath one is at least some level of shielding, even if you occasionally see a craft entering or exiting in a cloud of smoke or something. So I guess I understand that.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, I found an article that was suggesting that the UFOs have been using the Mexican volcanoes as bases since the 1950s.
Okay.
But I couldn't find any detail about that whatsoever. Nobody talking about that.
Interesting. Okay. I hate when that happens.
It's really frustrating, and it's really weird that was like, it was like in the headline, but it wasn't like talked about in the article. I don't know what that's about, but basically the way I'm kind of thinking it went is that in the 90s, that association with the volcanoes and the UFOs kind of came really into being and has just kind of spun out from there.
Okay.
But that's like kind of the basic explanation. It's very similar to the other sort of less conventional UFO, which is the underwater UFO, that they're just like, I don't know, like cleverer than your average like extraterrestrial visitor to Earth, and they're just like using these natural things to shield themselves.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. The other main idea that also I didn't get like, I saw like different people like talk about it or mention it, but they never really got like super in depth about like this other side of it. But they were basically, there's basically this side of UFO conspiracy theorists that are just saying that these aliens are siphoning the natural energies of Earth. They like the electromagnetic like stimulation that happens during volcanic eruptions and earthquakes and stuff, and they come and they like use that energy or something. It was kind of like indeterminate what they're doing, and it was another one of those Rorschach tests too, because on the one hand you've got UFOs are interdimensional travelers who can power their tech with these energies, which is I kind of got similar vibes to like UFOs like shutting down nuclear silos, because some people would be like, oh, they're taking that energy so that they can power their craft. So it was that kind of vibe. But then others are like, oh no, they're like using it to like power or build weapons. But I didn't get anything more than that. It just kind of seemed to be that inkblot test of either UFOs are benevolent protectors of Earth, warning us of our negative impact on our home planet and siphoning energies, or they're like scheming monsters in cahoots with like a cabal that wants to control the planet. I guess pick your poison.
Yeah, the general UFO dichotomy of good versus bad aliens.
Yeah, it really did just kind of come down to that very basically. But like a lot of the people were just singularly obsessed with, oh, there's a UFO base here.
Okay.
And they're using the volcano to do that. So ufologists also talk about how these UFOs don't just appear around active volcanoes for this particular this reason, this like energy siphoning. They talk about how, like I said, UFOs showing up around seismic activity, in other words, earthquakes. And all of this actually ties into a non-extraterrestrial theory of the UFO phenomenon that I'd not really heard in detail before. I think I'd seen it mentioned. This is the tectonic strain theory. It's interesting, but we've run into some trouble with this. So basically, the idea is it's only addressing the concept of the UFO phenomenon in its relationship to like tectonic or seismic events.
Oh, okay.
Which means that there's like a significant number of UFO sightings that completely fall outside of its grasp. But this theory comes from the research of Michael Persinger and Ghislaine Lafreniere. They're Canadian like professor. He was a professor. I didn't look too deep into him. I just kind of read about this theory that they had. They put it in this book called Space-Time Transients and Unusual Events. But you can also find like tons of papers that this guy published on the tectonic strain theory, and it's all online. Here's the problem that I run into, though.
Okay.
It's a bit too technical for me to totally understand it all.
Okay.
But I have a little bit of a basic summary here. So this theory states that stresses within the Earth's crust, less than that of earthquakes, may result in highly localized surface electromagnetic disturbances through piezoelectricity in subsurface rocks. Piezoelectricity is the phenomena whereby certain crystals, notably quartz, produces an electric charge across opposite crystal faces when under physical pressure. So it is suggested that the electric and magnetic fields produced by such rock strain are most common near geological faults. These cracks in the Earth's crust are signs of strain and movement. Quartz is mostly found underground within other rocks such as granite. The quartz crystals are separated from each other by minerals, and if a granite is crushed, it builds up an electric charge that builds up across individual quartz crystals. Since crystals do not align, they tend to cancel each other out rather than combining to form a strong magnetic field. So it appears that simple strain is unlikely to produce significant electromagnetic fields above the ground. If rocks do fracture, they might get electromagnetic fields produced by seismoelectric conversion. I don't know what that is. It has been reported that some earthquakes have been accompanied by weak but measurable magnetic disturbances. So the really short version of that is strain, a particular type of strain that can be produced like during earthquakes or by volcanoes can like cause like columns and balls of light to shoot out, is the theory.
Okay.
That's the theory. Funnily enough, I found exactly one guy who is not only a like enthusiastic geologist, but an enthusiastic ufologist as well.
Interesting.
And what was crazy about this guy is he did not buy this theory. But there's like nobody out there who cares enough about both geology and UFOs to like counter it except like this guy. So it was like this 2019 blog post from this guy where he was like, yeah, I'm in school for geology. I'm going to be like submitting my thesis. I tracked down Persinger's PhD thesis advisor, who I guess teaches at this guy's school.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, I don't agree with this tectonic strain theory. And the thesis advisor was like, cool, why don't you write about it? Why don't you like offer up a rebuttal?
Yeah.
I ran into another problem. The rebuttal has too much geology and mathematics that I do not understand.
Okay.
So the short version, a guy thinks that volcanoes can cause electromagnetic disturbances that are causing what people see. Another guy said no. And then there was a bunch of geology and math.
Yeah.
Which is why I need to maybe tap into my dad and see if he can help me with this.
I thought I was going to be able to help you out more because I know a bit about piezoelectric stuff because there's microphones based on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like pickups for like acoustic guitars. There's like some contact mics and contact stuff is based on piezoelectric stuff.
Oh.
But then it was talking about like stuff that went beyond
quartz
what I know.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. I'll legitimately ask my dad about this because he might have some insight. But it's an interesting idea. I don't think there's anything completely proven. But like when I was looking at like when you look into the actual paper on it, there's like a shitload of like technical shit and like explaining how to like measure this and all this stuff. So I don't know. If there's a geologist listening to this, please check this out and get back to us. Email
that's
us.
what a thesis tends to look like. Yeah, that's.
I know. I'm just saying that I was from the layman perspective, it looks like there is like a legitimate thing here, but I don't know.
It's one of those fun things where you never expect to actually have to like deal with high level intellectualism in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, not here.
But then like there are little areas where where the world of weird crosses over with high level science, engineering and physics and stuff like this that you're just like, oh, I don't know. Like when I was looking into the guy that created a free energy thing, there was all this stuff about kind of different energies and equations and how like Newton was wrong and it was actually this whole other thing. Like, and I I spent some time trying to read into it, and I was like, I only could get so far before it descended into such high level like physics discussion, and
you
like
just couldn't follow anymore.
That it was like, not only was it like physics that you would actually learn, it was people saying, no, it's not that physics, it's this other physics that's using entirely separate things.
Yeah.
And and you're just like, fuck it, I don't know.
I think I ran into that when I was thinking about maybe doing like simulated reality stuff. And I started finding shit where people are talking about like quantum mechanics. And I'm like, I can't.
I ran into that.
Can't do this shit, man.
In the original Mandela Effect episode, I had to read up on quantum computing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And to like understand that stuff, I
don't get it.
I feel like I'm a generally capable person, but I do not understand quantum computing beyond like a surface level, like metaphorical understanding.
Yeah, to be fair to us, I feel like a lot of people researching that stuff legitimately also don't quite understand it. It's kind of the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is volcanic UFOs. I was just excited to find that there was more meat on that, because like for like 2 days I was scouring different websites and just finding the same stupid shit.
I hate when that happens.
I was losing my mind. I was like, please let this be an episode. I need to talk about the horse. I desperately need to talk about the horse. And then I found all this other stuff, and I got very excited by that.
That's like when I spent like a day and a half trying to find enough to make the pancake bakers from space into a full episode. And it was like, God damn it, I can't. So I have to like...
Sometimes you got to make it a grab bag to make it work. And I almost made this a grab bag of different like weird UFO locations, but fortunately didn't have to. Volcanic UFOs. That's volcanic UFOs. Maybe we'll watch the documentary sometime too and see what that's all about.
We'll probably due for a documentary episode here sometime soon.
So, Nile, are you ready for the big question?
Oh, I'm always ready. Actually, sorry. Who was that?
Big Ballin Nile.
Thank you.
Are you prepared for
Yes, I am.
Big Ballin question? If you could siphon energy from particular landmarks on Earth, what would they be, and what would you use that energy for?
Interesting. Okay. So, does it have to be something that like generally like creates a lot of energy?
No, it can be anything. Like, let's just say, because I kind of have one in mind.
I feel like I would love it if I could siphon energy from like Starbucks.
Oh, okay.
Or like Starbucks ordering, like, or really just like the whole like the kind of
the coffee process.
Just like the kind of emotional energy that takes place inside of a Starbucks is pretty wild. Yeah. So I think that would be. There's like a lot of locations. They're everywhere. You get a lot of people that are just like weirdly mad at people in there for some reason and just like being very unreasonable.
Well,
and I feel like that's a good source of energy that I could use for better reasons.
It's pretty negative energy. So you're casting that energy on your enemies to make them like upset or something.
I feel like I can turn that energy positive. You know, I can steal from. It's like a steal from the rich to give to the poor kind of thing, where I'm like siphoning the energy off assholes to give it to use it for good purposes, you know, like just sending good vibes out into the world. In general, I'm just going to send good vibes.
Yeah, you touch your hand onto like some good Samaritan's shoulder and transfer that energy to them, and you nod solemnly in their direction. You say, "This was a guy who was being a dick to a barista."
Yeah. Exactly.
I had a somewhat similar thing in mind, but I went. So I was thinking I could siphon energy off of diners.
Okay. You know, what kind of energy is that?
So and I'm talking like Denny's, IHOP can be in there too. And this energy is going to give me this energy is going to be channeled into running really, really, really fast to get me to the next diner.
Okay. So what kind of energy are you siphoning? Like, is it just because I feel like people are generally not super energetic in a Denny's?
I'm converting it.
Okay.
I'm converting the energy of the cooks and the
so like you're stealing the energy of the line in like rush hour to try, which I believe in a diner is either like 10:30 a.m. or like 10:30 p.m. And then using that to get to the next diner.
Okay. So I can eat more diner food. I'm just going to kind of put myself in a vicious cycle of eating diner food, sucking their energy away, and running to the next one.
You are the most specific Flash in the history of DC Comics.
Right. That's exactly what I was going for.
You can only harness the Speed Force to get to the next diner.
That's right.
Okay.
And ain't it grand? Slam.
Yeah. God damn it. So, unless you want to talk more about quick service eateries, we can go ahead and take her.
Bring back the Hobbit Hole.
You keep referencing the Hobbit Hole, but what is the Hobbit Hole?
It's a breakfast meal that...
Well, of course it is. It's a fucking it's a Denny's
had a
promotional
breakfast
item.
meal. I don't remember what was on it. I don't really care. I just think they should bring it back. Regardless of this, whether or not The Hobbit is in theaters or not, I think we deserve I think the American people deserve a Hobbit Hole.
Okay. Well, if you're going to keep referencing the Hobbit Hole, I'm going to need you to do the 10 seconds of research it would require for you to actually look up what it is.
Okay.
And commit that to your memory, because otherwise you're not allowed to make this reference anymore.
Googling.
And I don't know if you've made this reference a lot on this podcast, but in terms of it's an oddly common reference for you, despite the fact that it was a promotional breakfast meal at a Denny's about 10 years ago.
Okay. Hobbit Hole did not get me what I wanted, but Hobbit Hole's breakfast Denny's did. The new Hobbit Hole breakfast, our Hobbit Hole breakfast means only one thing: comfort. 2 eggs fried right into the center of grilled cheddar bun halves, served with 2 slices of bacon and crispy hash browns topped with melted shredded cheddar, cheese, and bacon.
Okay, that actually sounds pretty good.
So bring back the Hobbit Hole Denny's. Call it the Hobbit Hole. Don't call it something else.
I was honestly curious if it was going to be kind of a toad in a hole thing, because that's what it sounds like. That's what it ended up being.
Yeah, that's kind of. But yeah, so don't Google just Hobbit Hole. Google Denny's Hobbit Hole.
Hey, if you're just going to Google Hobbit Hole, make sure safe search is off.
Yeah.
So
check out Hobbit Hole.
On that note, let's go and take care of some business. So if you want to find more of this wonderful podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Stitcher to Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're probably there.
You can email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Send us screenshots and pictures of your emails to our email of your demands that Denny's return that bring back the Hobbit Hole.
And also send us snapshots of you recreating the Hobbit Hole at home.
Yeah. If you need some, you could take inspiration from Goatsy would be a good one, I think. Oh, you were talking about the breakfast.
Sorry, I should have been more specific. The Hobbit Hole Denny's breakfast items.
Which you could pose that way next to the breakfast.
If you do that, though, do not send that to us. Or at least crop your hole out of it and leave just the Denny's breakfast.
I'll provide my personal email so you can redirect that. Jesus, yeah, email us, please. Hey, and actually, straight up, if you can look up this tectonic strain theory shit and make sense of it for my dumb brain, please email us. Straight up, if you're a geologist, do it. I would love that. And then we'll eat everything I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to eat a Hobbit Hole?
Oh, man. No, I'm not going to make that joke.
Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, you're getting an episode every other week of our bonus show, It Gets Weird TV, or we're watching Gravity Falls right now. If you donate at the $5 tier, you get that show plus another bonus show. So you're getting a bonus show every single week. Whether or not you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to our main episodes 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday on your own personal feed. You get access to our Discord where we're hanging out, chatting about all kinds of shit. So if you want to join that community, you got to donate to us. We also have a $1 tier that's just a tip. If you like our show, you don't get anything out of it. You just get the satisfaction of, giving a nice little tip to your favorite podcast. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and keep telling your friends about It Gets Weird. I've been Big Ballin Nile.
And I'm Little Pebble Kyle, signing out.
Peace.